What's up YouTube? I'm the nice one, and today we are making a Spartan warrior type of character model in Maya. So you know what, why don't we just jump straight into it, okay? How about that? Okay, jumping straight into it, we're going to start with that base model that we created a while back. If any of you haven't seen that video yet, I'll leave a link in the description below. If you're not really interested in making a base model, I'll also drop a link to CG Trader. You can just download it for free there, and you can start off at the same place. Anyway, we have a base model, and we're going to start by making a flat plane, bring it to the front, and reduce the subdivisions to 1, so we're working with a single face. Then we're going to split it straight down the middle using an edge loop, and then apply 2 more edge loops to the left and the right so it's perfectly symmetrical. We'll make sure to turn on our mirror symmetry modifier so that we're working on both sides at the exact same time, just to cut our modeling time in half. Anyway, we're going to take that plane, add a few edge loops, and start molding around basically a simple chest piece going around this character. And you can see I also put a bit of a neck guard here. I was really working off the idea of a Roman soldier type of thing, so I wanted to make kind of like a cuirass first before making anything else. So once we have that front chest piece, we're going to make straps going around the shoulder and then extrude straight down. Now what you see there is I could select 2 edges that are opposite each other and then use the bridge tool in the modeling toolkit to connect them. And then after that, I add another edge loop straight down the center of that back so things are symmetrical. Next, I'm adding 1 more edge loop, and I'm making sure that those 2 edge loops, one in the front and one in the back, are actually lined up, because what I'm going to do next is bridge those 2 together to close off our chest piece right there. Now what you see me doing is doing a couple of simple kind of just tweaking the chest piece so that it looks a little more appropriate to our character. It looks like it fits him a bit more accurately. Just doing some vertex edits and maybe twisting around some edge loops here and there. Once I'm happy pretty much with how the chest piece is going, I think I'm moving on towards the neck area. So what I did was I selected the loop around his neck and then Control-E extruded up to make a bit of like a turtleneck kind of thing that later I'm going to turn into like a metal neck guard. After that, I did the same thing at the bottom to extend his cuirass down past his stomach so that it kind of guards not just his top part of his chest, but also his abdomen. And again, I'm just kind of modeling it a little bit more so that it fits a little more appropriately, twisting it here and there, and just kind of giving it a bit more of an appropriate shape. We're working off, we haven't smooth previewed yet, but I usually try and get it as close to what I want before smooth previewing. Anyway, what I'm doing here now is I made a duplicate of the chest piece and then cut off the top. And basically I reused the chest piece asset to make a second layer skirt. Because I remember when I was looking up reference art for Spartan warriors, they have a little bit of metal armor, but what they have a lot is that they layer things. So underneath this metal chest piece, I want to add this kind of like fur skirt kind of cloth to kind of, I imagine it was to pad the armor a little bit more. What you see me doing there is beveling right below the chest, like right around the nipple area, to give it a little more depth, to make it look sharper, because when you bevel edges, that's what gives hard surfaces the idea that it's sharp, like that it's not, like especially when you smooth it, use smooth preview later, beveling an edge makes it give it that hard edge. That's why they call it hard edge modeling or hard surface modeling. And yeah, so here what you see me doing there is using Control-E to extrude, and then instead of pulling out using the handle, I apply thickness. So I believe I applied 0.05 factor in or 0.05 thickness, and that's how you make it look a little bit more substantial as opposed to just a flat plane. Now obviously that's going to turn up how many polys you have, so if you're trying to work in low poly, you might not want to smooth this over later. But it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. Anyway, like I mentioned earlier, we're doing that bevel. We're beveling the edges so that when we go into smooth preview, things look a little more like they're kind of forged, as opposed to smoothly going into and making this kind of amorphous blob shape. What you saw, what you're looking at there is actually a mistake I made. For some reason, when I extruded, when I applied thickness, there was like a weird fold in the back. It must have been, I might have had an accidental edge loop that was too close to a previous one. Maybe it was a bevel I applied somewhere. That's what caused the fold there. So just be careful when you're beveling, you know. Yeah, just be careful, that kind of stuff. But yeah, you're gonna see me going around beveling, making sure all the edges are really harsh. Not harsh, but harder, so it looks kind of like sharp armor type of feel. And now I believe at this point I'm pretty happy with how the chest piece is looking, so I'm going to move on to the shoulder pauldron. What you see me doing here is now I changed my symmetry to object Y, so I can work on both sides but working off a different axis. And then I'm just adding an edge loop straight down the middle there so that symmetry is maintained, and then I'm just working off both sides at the same time, basically taking a flat plane like we did with the chest piece and then molding it around the shoulder to make a basic pauldron. Like we've seen this technique done before in previous videos. So feel free to kind of use this kind of approach and tweak it to whatever kind of character you want. Obviously you don't have to make this guy, or person, and you can make whoever you want. Anyway, there we go. So I'm making the basic pauldron, but I remember that I want this pauldron, like I mentioned before, Spartan warriors layer a lot of stuff, you know, because they can't really walk around in full metal armor. They layer leather, fur underneath the metal. So what I'm planning to do here is using this other plane as kind of like a second layer of leather padding underneath the bronze or iron plate armor that's on top. And that's what you see me doing here again. So yeah, so I'm basically making this pauldron here, maybe adjusting it a little bit. Just I might scale it a bit more as well. At that, the reason I pulled out, here, I'm adding another extrusion, a thickness, to make it look, I only apply thickness to basically metal armor so that it looks more substantial, and then I let the cloth or fabric pieces be flat planes to save on polys, but also to make the distinction between what is thicker and more substantial and what is less, like what's more cloth-like. And what you saw me doing there was adding bevels to sharpen off the edges to, again, hammer home the idea, pun hammer, hammer home the idea that it's a piece of metal. And then I just duplicated it and rotated it on the opposite side. This is actually a mistake on my end, because what I could have done is instead use the mirror function in Maya, and it would have been a perfectly symmetrical mirror. So maybe use that next time, because when you're texture painting, if your model is perfectly symmetrical, it makes life a lot easier. Anyway, moving on from there, I'm actually making a leather skirt at this point. So basically, I'm taking a flat plane, again, reduce the subdivisions down to 1, and put a edge loop straight down the middle, and then using the extrusion feature, basically wrap the plane around the base model's legs. And then at the end, use the bridge tool to kind of merge it all together. Don't forget to add one edge loop straight down the middle of that back bridged plane so that things are symmetrical. And yeah, that's how I made basically the skirt plane right here. Obviously, what I'm going to do next is kind of fit it to how the character is going right now. And then once I'm happy with that, I believe what I do next is apply a little bit of, what do you call it? I'm beveling some of the edge loops. I'm adding edge loops because I'm trying to think a little bit forward. Because here what you see me doing is I'm extruding out and I'm applying some thickness. Unfortunately, I have this weird error where one of my vertices pulls all the way down when I extrude out, so I had to kind of manually readjust that. I'm not really sure what's causing that, so if any of you know what that is, leave a comment down below and let me know. I would appreciate it. Anyway, what you saw me doing there was I extruded out certain faces to make it look like it's kind of like, what do you call it, studded leather. Studded leather. If you play D&D, you'll know what studded leather is, but basically it's like leather straps layered on top of each other, and that's how I wanted the skirt to look. I wanted to look like it was leather with leather on top, like leather with leather struts kind of on top of it. I had the smooth feature on there, but then I kind of decided to leave it as like a low poly skirt just to save on polygons, because I know that the base model, if you expand it, it ends up being a lot of polys. So yeah, that's why I did that. Anyway, I have a skirt here, and I'm just kind of positioning it in a way that I want and what I'm happy with. basically underneath the fur skirt, underneath the fur padding I had beneath the chest plate armor, and then just kind of tweaking it so that it fits our character a little bit better, a little more accurately. And yeah, so basically we have the upper body done, and then after, I remember I took a break at this point, but we are just gonna kind of jump straight back into it in this video. And basically what we're gonna do now is I believe we're gonna make the gauntlets. And so to do that, what I typically did was I took a plane, I expanded the plane, and basically I reduced the plane to a single face, like I always do. Run an edge loop straight down the middle, make sure my object Y symmetry is on, so I'm working off both sides at the same time. Add a few edge loops on the horizontal axis, or the X axis I believe, and then again modeling a basic shape of a gauntlet, or a kind of, yeah, like a forearm guard that I want. Basic shape, obviously, starting off with the basic simple shapes first before adding detail. And yeah, basically I'm just making this plane and forming it so that it fits this hand a bit more accurately. And then I'm going to start kind of wrapping it around the rest of the forearm so it looks like your character would actually slip their hand into this leather metal glove gauntlet thing. And then there we go, we got a basic plane that wraps around our character's forearm. I wasn't quite happy with how flat it was, so again I applied some thickness to make it look like it's a little more substantial. And then what I did was I applied thickness to the planes in like a stepwise manner to make it look like it's layered without having to actually make more models and layer it on top and cause overlapping geometry. Basically it's select a plane, select the bottom plane, extrude that up, select the next layer of planes, extrude that up, and then select the next layer of planes, extrude that up, and then you get the effect of layering metal plates without actually making individual plates and layering them on top of each other. It's basically a single mesh, but it looks like it's multiple pieces connected into one. At this point, what I'm doing is, again, beveling a lot of the edges so that they look a little sharper if I decide to smooth preview this. I believe I actually leave this as a regular, as a non-smoothed. Again, keeping in mind, trying to keep things low poly. I noticed that a lot of my, and I apologize, a lot of my videos aren't true low poly, because I like having a lot of detail in my characters, and I like the smooth feature. And basically I use my models more for animation and a little bit of games here and there. But again, you can easily kind of turn off the smooth preview and more or less have the same effect with a little more low poly vibe. Anyway, moving on, I'm making the boots at this point. So I took a cube and I put it where the legs are, deleted the top and bottom face, and now I'm just molding the cube into the shape of a foot that I want. Turning on smooth features so I know what it looks like once I smooth it later on, but again, kind of modeling the foot so that it looks like it fits the leg a little more appropriately. Now what I'm going to do is add kind of a knee guard, kind of a knee pad type of thing to protect his joints, because you know this guy deals with arthritis, so you gotta, when you're battling demons, you gotta protect yourself from that kind of thing. Yeah, so here we go. So I have a basic kind of like knee guard, shin guard, plate armor thing, and I'm doing what I did with the gauntlet. In a stepwise manner, I'm adding thickness so it looks like it's a, it has layers of metal, but it's actually just a single piece. What I did was I actually brought in a different head model shape, but you can continue using the base model head that I provide you guys in the CG Trader link. That's completely fine. Anyway, what you see me doing there is I basically, as opposed to taking another plane and wrapping it around, I just reused the boot asset and shrunk it down on the z-axis to make it look like it's like leather that is connected to the metal plate and wraps around the leg, just so that metal doesn't look like it's floating. Now what I'm doing is just making the sandal. I made basically a platform where the foot lands, and then I'm just using, again, that leather strap that we use for the knee guard, and just making it kind of like a slip-on sandal, you know. Yeah, so that's basically what I'm doing here. I'm flattening it out on the y-axis, on the z-axis, so it's flat, so it looks like it would be flat if he was to be standing on a surface. And then I'm just duplicating and duplicating the mesh and then inverting it on the Z axis, I believe, so that I can bring it up to the opposite leg, like what I did with the gauntlet. Now, that's actually a mistake on my end. What I would recommend you guys do is just use my mirror function. That is a lot better and a lot smoother, but I completely forgot about that feature when I was doing this, so my apologies. Anyway, now what I'm doing is making a helmet, so I start with a basic cube, and then I add a few more edge loops left and right of the cube, so down the X and Y axis, and then basically kind of made a crown type of piece fitting around his forehead. And then what I'm going to do is Control E to extrude in, and then deselect the extrusion and then bring it in on a single Z axis, and then extrude up. So that's what gives it that kind of a trim effect, what you see there, the trim. And I'm doing the same thing here. And then I'm just making kind of like a skull cap type of thing. I'm basically extruding from the top and then scaling down the top faces so that it rounds off at the top of the head. And yeah, so there we go. We got a basic skull cap feature. I'm adding a few more. I'm gonna bevel here and there, add a few edge loops so it looks a lot sharper. Again, beveling this bottom edge here, so just so that when I smooth preview it, it looks like it's made out of metal and not some fabric like winter toque. And yeah, we got a skull cap. Now what we're gonna do is make a chin guard, or a jaw, like a chin guard / ear guard. So I'm taking a flat plane again and wrapping it around the top of the head, or the side of the head, and kind of molding it around his chin or his jawline, so that it looks like it protects him in that respect. So it guards his ear and also guards his jawline a little bit more accurately. And again, applying thickness so that it's a little, makes it look like it's made out of metal or copper or bronze or whatever material your world will use. My world is probably using iron or something like that. Anyway, yeah, so that's what you see me doing here. Now I'm just kind of fixing up the chin guard a little bit more. I'm duplicating it and then inversing the scale on the y-axis so that it's opposite, so that it's mirrored on the opposite side. Again, use the mirror function. Don't bother with that inverse scaling, because what you end up doing is having reverse normals and it's all messed up. So use the mirror function instead. You'll see a little indicator here how to access the mirror function. And now what you see me doing is modeling the back of the head, piece of the helmet. So the helmet really comprises of 4 main pieces. You got the crown skull cap, you got the ear jaw guard, you got the back of the head kind of flare out, kind of nape of the neck protection piece right there, to protect the back of the head, flaring it out a little bit so that if your character were to kind of lift their head up, it wouldn't kind of dig into your back. And then the final piece is going to be like the plume that goes at the top, which what you see me making here. So I take a flat plane, and then basically in top view, I basically model a like a hemisphere shape, and then extrude it to give it some thickness. I extrude it again so that I can kind of add trim along the front. So I'm just selecting the front faces, but not the faces in the center, and extruding that forward so that it gives it a bit of a trim feel. And then I'm doing the same thing at the top. I'm going to extrude up here so that it looks like it's more trim, basically a lot of trim in this plume, and then scaling it down. And now what you see me doing here is making a feather. Or just like a very basic kind of like feather piece. So taking a cube and then using the vertex weld tool to merge them all into a single point at the top, so that when you smooth preview, it makes this kind of nice sharp teardrop shape. And yeah, there we go. Now we have a plume. After duplicating a couple times and then fitting it to the circular feature, now we have a nice little plume going on here. And yeah, we're good to go. And we have positioned the plume in the holster so that it fits. And then we just gotta add a kind of a piece, what do you call it? Like kind of a mount for the plume so that it looks like it connects to the skull cap a bit more accurately. And then boom, there we go. Now we got a cool helmet for our character. Bring it back down into a correct position, maybe hide those extra assets. And yeah, there we go. Now we got a Spartan soldier type of character. Yeah, so hopefully you guys found that helpful. Thanks for watching along, and leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Thanks for watching the video. If you like my content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let me know down below what you want to see next, or just check out some of these other great videos. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you later.